Happy lunchtime, everyone, and welcome to the 20th episode of Fridays with Fenning. You know, I am so grateful to everyone who tunes in each week. And if you ever want to catch up on any of my random ramblings, you can do so at forgechurch.com. Basically, if you scroll down and click on the midweek content, you'll find all of them there. On Wednesday, I celebrated my birthday. Now, it was a fairly innocuous one, other than the number was far too high. I was 54 years old. And then it struck me that actually my birthday did mark something quite significant. With my son, Sam, being 27, it means that I've now been a dad for half my life. So half my life, I've been responsible for the upbringing and well-being of someone else. And I don't know why it hit me in the way that it has, but it just feels significant. Probably because of the pride I have in my three kids. They are awesome and they just bring me so much joy. Honestly, I think I'm at my happiest when we can all just get together as a family. But one of my favourite quotes regarding parenting is from my favourite speaker called Andy Stanley, who once said this: "Your greatest contribution may not be something you do, but someone you raise." And when I first heard that, it just resonated so much with me. Your greatest contribution may not be something you do, but someone you raise. And as a parent, I think that's so empowering because it brings value to the investment that we make in our kids. And being a parent has been and still is a constant learning process. And so I am incredibly grateful for a book that I was given when Alice, my middle child, was born in 1995. This book has shaped and influenced my parenting and highlighted some important principles. Now, this is the book. It's called The 60-Minute Father by Rob Parsons. It's brilliant because it's short. It only takes 60 minutes to read it, and I'm a slow reader. And each chapter has a 60-second page to summarize. And yet it's packed with stories and practical advice. In fact, it sets out 10 goals to help every father ensure that he doesn't miss out on the greatest opportunity of his life. So let me tell you 3 of the lessons that I found really helpful. And please know that I didn't always get these right, as I failed quite often as a dad, but at times they rescued me to help me be a better dad. So goal number 1 was seize the day. The book starts by retelling a section of the film Hook, which stars Robin Williams. Basically, work has delayed him, so he's going to miss his son Jack's important baseball game that he'd promised to attend. And so there is Jack at the match, searching the crowd to try and see his dad, and his wife is saying, "Where is he?" And suddenly a young executive turns up and says, "Hello, Mrs. Brannan, your husband is going to be late, so he's sent me to video parts that he misses. So now, which one is your son?" An hour later, Peter turns up to a silent and empty stadium. He's missed it completely. And when he gets home, his wife pleads with him and she says, "Your children love you. They want to play with you. How long do you think that will last? Look, soon Jack won't want you to come to his game. Look, we just have a few short years with our children when they're the ones that want us around. After that, you'll be running after them for a bit of attention. It's so fast, Peter, just a few years and it's over, and you're missing it." Now, having seen the film and reading that just hit home to me, because we'd started the church back in 1992 and it had grown and got busier, and I was out at more meetings, doing more hours. And this first chapter was a wake-up call to me. I didn't want to miss out on those early years with the children. The book contains a famous phrase from a speech given by Vincent Foster, a lawyer, that has stuck with me ever since first reading it. The quote was this: "No one was ever heard to say on their deathbed, 'I wish I'd spent more time at the office.'" Now, I'm so glad I read this when I did, because having 3 young children was tiring and hard work at times. And I noticed that not only was I busy with work, but I could make myself busy when I didn't need to be. Basically, just to avoid going home to the madhouse at times. Now, that was incredibly unfair on Sarah, my wife, but I was missing out on time with the kids. So this opening chapter changed me in those early years when the kids were young. Looking back, well, I wish I'd invested even more time with them, because the window of opportunity to read them stories, play catch, go for nature walks collecting autumn leaves, listening to story tapes was very small, and it just disappeared so quickly. So if you're a dad of young children, seize the day, grab those opportunities to change nappies, to talk with them as if they understand everything that you're saying. Put dates in your diary that are important to the kids, such as school performances, birthdays and sports events. Seize the day and give them your time and attention. Another goal that helped me was to laugh more with my children. A dad once wrote these words: "When I'm gone and my children talk about me, I would love them to say that I taught them great things, to look at the world with large eyes, to reach their potential and to care for those who were weak. But I wonder if I had missed it if they didn't add, but what we remember too is that he was fun to be with." Now, life can be so serious and it can be so busy at times, which can make dad a very boring person. So create some fun. I remember it pouring with rain, and so deciding that I and the kids should go out into the garden and run around getting soaking wet in just our underwear. I remember catching my elderly neighbour looking at us through her window and wondering just what she thought. But it was silly and it was fun, and we laughed a lot. And as they've got older, we've put on music in the car very loudly, and they've just sung at the tops of our voices. And they humour me with playing 1980s rock ballads and Queen and ELO, and I love it. And it's fun. Being a dad, we haven't got to be boring. Do family nights with midnight feasts that don't have to be at midnight. Watch films together tucked up under the duvet on the sofa. Play silly games. Laughing is so good for us all, and it helps create some great memories. The final goal to pick up on today is this: don't delegate big issues. In the film True Lies, Arnold Schwarzenegger has a teenage daughter that he's finding really hard to control. And one of his colleagues from work explains why he might be finding it so difficult. He says this: "You're not her parents anymore. Her parents are Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses and Madonna. Don't think that the 5 minutes that you spend with her can compete with that kind of bombardment." And it's true, isn't it? Our kids are bombarded with so many voices and influences. And so if we want our children to accept our values, we have to be intentional about passing them on. So if honesty, compassion, generosity, respect, hospitality is important to you, make it a priority to model it and talk about it and discuss it and show the importance of these values to our children. And if we don't, we're leaving it to others to teach them, and they won't necessarily be teaching the values that we think are important. This is why investing time with my kids spiritually was so important to me, because I wanted them to have their own relationship with God. I didn't want them to be judgmental or come across as all religious, and so we talked about it and we tried to model it. For what's important to you, don't delegate it to others. Be intentional. And finally, just imagine your kids are 40 and they're chatting with their children, and your grandson looks up at them and says, "What was your dad like growing up?" What would you want your children to say about you? Because you can shape that answer if you make wise decisions today. And if what you're doing doesn't produce that, then make the change. Your greatest contribution to our world might not be something you do, but someone you raise. Hey, have a great weekend.